Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadhyasya yatam vayaritaratas jatir svabhigya swarat. Tenne Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Mujantija Suraya. Tejo Varimrida Jata Vinimayo Jatra Trisagumusya. Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyang Param Dhimahi. O my Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead,
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa because he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa because he is the absolute truth.
And the primeval cause of all causes.
And the primeval cause of all
Of
causes.
the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
Of the creation, sustenance, destruction, the manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
And he is independent because there's no other cause beyond him.
And he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji.
It is he only who first imparted Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
The original living being.
the original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion.
By him even the great sages and demigods are pleasant to you.
As one is bewildered by the illusory representations
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation
of water seen on fire or land seen on water.
of water seen the fire, of land seen the water.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universe,
temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of the three modes of nature,
appear factual, although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they are
I
unreal.
therefore meditate upon him, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa,
who is eternally existent in a transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material
I
world.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Dharma projita kaitotra
Dharma Pujita Kaitavatra
paramo nirmatsaranam satam
Paramo Nirmasaranam Satam
vedyam vastavam atra vastu
Vedyam Vastavam Astra
shivadam tapa trayon mulanam.
Shivadam Taputre Muranam
Srimad Bhagvate Mahamuni Krite
Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite
Kim Vapurir Ishwaraha
Kimva Paririshva
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra
Sadyo Ruddhi Avarudya Titra
Kritibihi Sususabhistakshanat.
Kritibhi Shushubhistatyanat.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are material motivated.
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavata Purana propounds the high truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the heart.
The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold
This
miseries.
beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity,
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
is sufficient itself for God.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the need of the other scripture?
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of
by
Bhagavatam,
this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
sukhamukad amrita dravya samyutam,
Sukamakhar amrita drava sangitam,
pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam,
Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam,
muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavakaha.
Mura Hura Sika Bhuvibhavaka.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam.
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad
The
Bhagavatam.
mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures.
The mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature.
It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukhdev Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Śrī Sukhdev Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvata Swakata Krishna
Shunvatam Swakata Krishna
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Punya Shravana Kirtana
Hridyantaksto hi abhadrani
Hridyantas Turiya Bhadrani
Vidunoti Suhitsatam.
Vidunoti Suritsatam.
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
or to hear from me directly through the Bhagavad Gita,
is itself righteous activity.
it is self-righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna who is dwelling within everyone's
acts as a best wishing friend,
heart, acts as the best wishing friend,
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purify the devotees constantly engaged in hearing.
Nasta presu abhadresu
Nasta Prayeshwa Bhadrishu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Seva
bhagavati tamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamas
bhakti
Loke
bhavati naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge,
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotee.
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Darajastamo Bhava
kamalobhadayaschaye
Kamalobhadayascha
sheta etar anavidam
Chaitaitaranavidam
stitvam sattve prasidati.
Stitam Sarve Prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manaso
Evam prasana manaso
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogataha
Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnanam
Bhagavat Tattva
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
Mukta Sangasya Jayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are wiped
the
away,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure
the
goodness,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate Hridaya Grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Granti
Chidyante Sarva Samsaya
Chidyante Sarva Samshaya
Siyante Chasya Karmani
Siyante Chasya Karmani
Drista Evat Manishware.
Drustaivad Manishwari.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the heart not of material affection
Thus, the Bhakti Yoga serves the heart of material affection
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables us to come at once to the stage of samsram samagrama,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees in Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of God, can understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 1, Chapter 19, verse 21.
24.
Oh, 24? Good.
Actually, yeah, 24. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Tatascha va prichyam imam vipriche
Tataschava prichamyamam vipriche
vishrabhya vipra iti krit yatayam
Vishrabhya vipra iti krichatayam
sarvatmana mri yamanais chakrityam
Sarvatmana mriyamanai chakrityam
sudam tatram rishata viyukta.
Shuddham chatatram shrita viyukta.
Translation. O trustworthy Brahmanas, I now ask you about my immediate duty. Please, after proper deliberation, tell me of the unalloyed duty of everyone in all circumstances, and specifically of those who are just about to die. In this verse, the king has placed two questions before the learned sages. The first question is, what is the duty of everyone in all circumstances? And the second question is, what is the specific duty of one who is to die very shortly? Out of the two, the question relating to the dying man is most important because everyone is a dying man, either very shortly or after 100 years. The duration of life is immaterial, but the duty of a dying man is very important. Maharaj Parikshit placed these two questions before Sukhdev Goswami, also on his arrival, and practically the whole of the Srimad Bhagvatam, beginning from the second canto up to the last 12th canto, deals with these two questions. The conclusion arrived at thereof is that devotional service of the Lord Śrī Kṛṣṇa, as it is confirmed by Lord himself, is the last phases of the Bhagavad Gita, is the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. Maharaj Parikshit was already aware of this fact, but he wanted the great sages assembled there to unanimously give their verdict on this conviction so that he might be able to go on with his confirmed duty without controversy. He has especially mentioned the word Shuddha, or perfectly correct. For transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. Some of them are first-class methods, and some of them are second- or third-class methods. The first-class method demands that one give up all other methods and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus be saved from all sins and their reactions. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Hari Bol. Well, this is the fundamental question of life. What is our duty? What is our occupational duty? So we have two swadharmas, a lower swadharma or swakarma and a higher swakarma. Lower swakarma is the duties we have to perform for maintenance of the body and extensions of the body, like family and relatives and so forth, and up to humanity, and even going beyond that, the animals, the plants, the whole planet, etc. And the higher swadharma is the duties for our soul and its relationship to Krishna. So if we simply do the lower swadharma, which is basically dharma, artha, kama, moksha, and when they use the word moksha, it's relative moksha. So if you live only 100 years on this planet, but you're elevated to Swarga, you can live hundreds and thousands of years. So in comparison to 100 years, hundreds and thousands of years might appear to be eternal, but it's not really. And the proof that it's not is there's still birth, death, old age, and disease, even on the highest material planets. Or the highest material planets is Maharaloka, Janaloka, and Satyaloka. So, therefore, there's relative eternity and is real eternity. Everything in the material world is relative. Now, the question is relative to what? Everything is relative to Krishna. In other words, when something is relative to something else, the other thing it's relative to is what it's supported by or what it depends upon for its existence. So, in the material, according to the material philosophers, there's no absolute truth or absolute personality of Godhead. So everything, someone says everything is relative in the material world, they mean one relative thing to another relative thing to another relative thing infinitely, and you never get to the truth. But when in Krishna consciousness we say one thing is that everything is relative in the material world, it's all relative to Krishna, because Krishna is the primary quality of everything. Krishna pervades everything. Krishna contains everything. Krishna is the beginning, the middle, and the end of everything. So Krishna is the absolute truth, and everything else is relative to him. And nothing is independent of him. So here, especially a person who's going to die, they should not be thinking of anything else but Krishna. Because Krishna is the origin of all the souls, and going back to Godhead is the ultimate goal of striving for everyone in this world, whether they know it or not. And the duty of Vaishnavas is to help people understand this. And if one doesn't engage in that type of help to other people, they're actually a very, let's say, selfish person. They're not trying to spread that knowledge that is ultimately good for others. They're trying to hold it for themselves. And just like if you hold your breath, you'll die. And if you hold that knowledge and not spread it, you will die spiritually also. So as soon as you get spiritual knowledge, your duty is to spread it to others. You don't want to be like a capitalist who just wants to increase their wealth all the time and not share it with anybody else. So knowledge is worth much more than wealth, material wealth. And if you have real knowledge, then you should share it. You shouldn't take it to the grave. So it says here that the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. What is that? That is the last phases of the Bhagavad Gita is the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. So that is basically man manabhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskru mam ivaisasi satyam te pratijane priyosime. And so sarvadharma prityaja mamekam saranam raja ham tvam sarva papebhyo muksisyami mahasuchaha. So we should always think of Krishna, worship Krishna, become the devotee of Krishna, offer our homage to Krishna. And if we do this, then we become very dear to Krishna. And we should completely surrender to Krishna, and Krishna will protect us from and exonerate us from all sinful reactions due to past deeds, and we'll be able to go back to Godhead. So becoming dear to Krishna is explained, and then right after that, how to attain complete liberation, not partial liberation or incomplete liberation, but complete liberation is the next verse. So when Prabhupada says the last phase in the last phases of Bhagavad Gita, it is the last word in relation to everyone's permanent duty in life. And of course, he also says, Krishna also says in his last couple of verses, he says, Sarvaguya tamam bhuya shrinume paramam vacha isto si me dridam iti tato vaksyami tehitam. Because you are my very dear friend, I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So you see, Krishna has all knowledge, and what is he doing? He's always spreading it. He's always sharing it with others. So if we receive knowledge from Krishna, our duty is to share it with others. And that's called preaching. And that's what Prabhupada did. That's why we're here today. That's why this temple is here. That's why this whole movement is here. Because Prabhupada did not hold this knowledge to himself. He spread it freely everywhere. He opened up, like Lord Chaitanya, he opened up the treasure chest and distributed the wealth to everyone, this wealth of knowledge. So, and then Prabhupada says, for transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. Some of them are first-class methods, and some of them are second- or third-class methods. The first-class method demands that one give up all other methods and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus be saved from all sins and their reactions. So, the way we become misfortunate is to believe things that are not true and act on them. When you act on things that are not true, one becomes overwhelmed with sinful activities, and one becomes completely entangled in the material world with under tamishra, moha, and so forth. All these different types of ignorance that envelop. There's tamas and there's moha and there's under moha. So therefore one becomes overwhelmed with ignorance, and they get entangled, and they're suffering, and they don't know how to get out. They just don't know how to get out because they've been misled. Just like sometimes hunters will set up a little wooden house, basically a rectangular shaped wooden house, and it has a trap door, and then some animals go inside. Immediately the trap door comes down and they're caught, but they're not dead because they don't want to kill them. They want to catch like bears or other animals and then train them to be in a circus or something like that. And it can also catch human beings because it's a trap door. As soon as you walk in, it comes down and you can't get out. So that is what's happening to people who believe things that are not true. They walk in, they get trapped, and they can't get out. And they hold on to that false knowledge, so-called knowledge, for the rest of their life, believing it's true, and it just gets them more and more entangled because it's false. It's not real. And therefore, people become, it seems as if they're cursed to be misfortunate. But Krishna comes to reverse that process if people are willing to listen. That's why he says here, Tato vakshami te hitam. He says that the most confidential knowledge of all, hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. So Prabhupada explains, this is the 18th chapter, 64th verse. I already recited 65th and 66th. But in 64th verse, 18th chapter, Prabhupada writes, the Lord has given Arjuna knowledge that is confidential, knowledge of Brahman. When it says Brahman, it doesn't just mean the Brahma Jyoti, it means Brahma Jyoti, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And still more confidential, knowledge of the super soul within everyone's heart. And now he's giving the most confidential part of knowledge, just surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the end of the 9th chapter, he has said, Manmana, just always think of me. The same instruction is repeated here to stress the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. This essence is not understood by a common man, but by one who is actually very dear to Krishna, a pure devotee of Krishna. This is the most important instruction in all Vedic literature. What Krishna is saying in this connection is the most essential part of knowledge, and it should be carried out not only by Arjuna, but by all living entities. So this verse, 1864, is clearly saying that the ultimate goal of all this knowledge is to become a pure devotee of the Lord, and the process is by devotional service. So, and what does devotional service mean? What is it exactly? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. That's devotional service. 9 types of devotional service. So this, what you're doing and what I'm doing right now, is devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam. And hopefully, Smaranam, we'll remember this, right? And Padasevanam will engage in worshiping and serving the lotus feet of the Lord. And Archanam will engage in deity worship. And Vandanam will offer prayers and Sakyam will develop friendship, and so Archanam, Vandanam, Sakyam, Dasyam will become the servant of the Lord, and like Hanuman, and then Padasevanam will offer everything in our life to Krishna. So that is what devotional service is. So this is further explained where in the 11th Canto, 2nd chapter, 45th verse, 11 to 45, where it says, Sarva bhutesya ya pasyat bhagavat bhavam atmanaha bhutani bhagavat yatmani esa bhagavat to tamaha. So you see, they're using, in this verse, the word Bhagavan or Bhagavat appears many times, and it says, Sri Havir said, the most advanced devotee sees within everything the soul of all souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Śrī Kṛṣṇa, consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understands that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. So this is the vision of a pure devotee. This is the vision that one develops gradually by chanting Hare Krishna, associating with devotees, hearing Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagvatam, and engaging in practical devotional service. So in Bhagavad Gita 6:30 it says, Yomam pasyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pasyati tasyaham na pranishyami sachame na pranasyati. This is a wonderful verse, 6:30 in Bhagavad Gita. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. And Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse, a person in Krishna consciousness certainly sees Lord Krishna everywhere, and he sees everything in Krishna. Such a person may appear to see all separate manifestations of the material nature, but in each and every instance he is conscious of Krishna, knowing that everything is the manifestation of Krishna's energy. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. So here's another important Vaikya, or statement, that we should make a poster of. Nothing can exist without Krishna, and Krishna is the Lord of everything. This is the basic principle of Krishna consciousness. So then Prabhupada continues, actually this is written by Prabhupada's disciples. The qualification for seeing Krishna everywhere is stated in the Brahma Samhita 5:38. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santak Sadeva Hridayesu Vilokayanti Yam Shamasindaram Achintya Guna Swarupam Govindam Adipurisham Tamham Bhajami. So I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is always seen by devotees whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in its eternal form of Sham Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. And then it continues. A devotee of the highest level of spiritual qualification is glorified for the expansiveness of his spiritual vision. For example, when the stalwart demon Hiranyakashipu questioned his self-realized son Prahlada Maharaj as to the whereabouts of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlada, being a Mahabhagavata, or pure devotee, answered straightforwardly that the Supreme Lord is everywhere. The demoniac father then asked if God was in the pillar of the palace. Now there were hundreds of pillars in his palace. He just points to one because that was the closest one to him. He said, is he here in this pillar? And so Prabhupada says, Prahlada, being a Mahabhagavat, or pure devotee, answered straightforwardly that the Supreme Lord is everywhere. The demoniac father then asked if God was in the pillar of the palace. When Prahlada answered yes, Hiranyakashipu, being a bona fide demon, struck the pillar with a sword, trying to kill God, or at least disprove his existence. Then Lord Nrsimhadev, the most ferocious form of the Supreme Lord, immediately appeared and finished forever the illicit program of Hiranyakashipu. Thus, Prahlada Maharaj can be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari devotee. Now, what does that mean? It means he's a topmost devotee. And then Prabhupada explains, or the purport explains, a pure devotee is completely free from the tendency to enjoy things separately from the Lord's service. He does not see anything in the universe as unfavorable, because he sees everything as the expanded potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, this is an important point. This shows how a real devotee is always upbeat, always hopeful, always positive, always seeing opportunities where people don't see any opportunity. You see, most people say, oh, that's impossible. Oh, I can't do that. No one will listen to what we say. You know, we go out on Sankirtan, nobody's really interested in what we're doing. You know, it's just a waste of time. No. Devotee is not like that. The devotee sees what? He sees opportunity. He doesn't see anything in the universe as unfavorable, because he sees everything as the expanded potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee's purpose in existing is to give pleasure somehow or other to the Supreme Lord. Thus, everything that a pure devotee experiences, moment by moment, increases his ecstatic loving desire to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord. The three modes of material nature torment the conditioned soul, who absorbs his mind in the separated material energy of the Lord. The function of this separated energy, Bina Prakriti, is to take the living entity away from the reality, which is that everything is within Krishna, and Krishna is within everything. Being covered by gross ignorance, the bewildered conditioned soul believes that only the objects of his own limited vision actually exist. Sometimes such foolish persons speculate that if a tree falls in a forest with no one to hear it, there will actually be no sound. The conditioned souls do not consider that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is all-pervading, there is no question of no one's hearing. The Lord always hears. As stated in 13th chapter, Bhagavad Gita 13.14, Sarvata Shrutimal Loke. The Supreme Lord hears everything. And in Bhagavad Gita 13.23, Upadastra, the Supreme Lord is the witness of everything. So he's witnessing everything and he's hearing everything. In this verse, the word Bhagavatotama, the most advanced devotee, indicates that there are those who are not gross materialists, but who are not the highest devotees. According to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, those who cannot properly distinguish between devotees and non-devotees, and who therefore never worship the pure devotees of the Lord, are to be known as Kanista Adhikaris. These are devotees on the lowest stage. Devotees on the lowest stage of devotional service. Such Kanista Adhikaris engage in worship of the Supreme Lord, especially in the temple, but are indifferent to the Lord's devotees. Thus, they misunderstand the statement by Lord Shiva in the Padma Purana. Radhananam sarvesam Vishnu radhanam param tasmat paritaram devi tadiyanam samacharam. O Devi, O Durga Mata, or Parvati, the most exalted system of worship is the worship of Lord Vishnu. Greater than that is the worship of Tadiya, or anything belonging to Vishnu. Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse. Shri Vishnu is Satchitananda Vigraha. Similarly, the most confidential servant of Krishna, the spiritual master, and all devotees of Vishnu are Tadiya. The Satchitananda Vigraha, Guru, Vaishnavas, and things used by them must be considered Tadiya, and without a doubt worshipable by all living beings. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya 12:38 in the purport. So, typically the Kanishta Adhikari is eager to engage his materialistic qualifications in the service of the Lord, mistaking such material expertise to be the sign of advanced devotion. But by continuing by continuing to serve the Supreme Lord and the devotees engaged in propagating the Lord's mission, the Kanistha Adhikari also advances in his realization and comes to the stage of dedicating his activities to helping more advanced Vaishnavas. Even such Kanistha Adhikaris can help ordinary living beings, living entities, by their association, since at least the Kanistha Adhikaris have faith that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of this faith, the Kanistha Adhikari gradually becomes inimical to those who are opposed to the Lord, as he gradually becomes more and more inimical to those who hate the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and becomes more attracted to friendship with other faithful servants of the Lord. The Kanistha Adhikari approaches the second-class stage called Madhyama. In the Madhyama stage, the Vaishnava sees the Lord as the cause of all causes and the chief goal of everyone's loving propensity. He sees the Vaishnavas as his only friends within this morbid world and is eager to bring innocent people within the shelter of Vaishnava society. Also, a Madhyama Adhikari strictly avoids associating with the self-proclaimed enemies of God. When such an intermediate qualification becomes mature, the concept of supreme qualification begins to present itself. That is, one comes to the stage of Uttama Adhikari. So this is a pretty detailed explanation of how Kanistha Adhikaris can advance. But there's a lot more to this that has to be said, and that's explained more specifically in Srimad Bhagvatam 6th Canto, 3rd chapter, 24th verse, where it says, "Therefore it should be understood that one is easily relieved from all sinful reactions by chanting the holy name of the Lord and chanting of his qualities and activities. This is the only process recommended for relief from sinful reactions. Even if one chants the holy name of the Lord with improper pronunciation, he will achieve relief from material bondage if he chants without offenses. Ajamila, for example, was extremely sinful, but while dying, he merely chanted the holy name, and although calling his son, he achieved complete liberation because he remembered the name of Narayana." Well, there's an amazing story about Ajamil, and it's somewhat hard to believe. That's because we don't have complete faith in Krishna and his holy name and everything that he touches. But here it says, in the assembly of Raghunath Dasa Goswami's father, Harivilas Thakur, he was invited to a Sankirtan party in Raghunath Das Goswami's father's house, where he had deity worship, and he had a pundit that was doing the deity worship and so forth. So Harivilas Thakur goes there, and he speaks. And Harivilas Thakur confirmed that simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, one is liberated, even if he does not chant completely inoffensively. In other words, even if he still is committing some offenses. Smarta Brahmanas and Mayavadis do not believe that one can achieve liberation in this way. But the truth of Harivilas Thakur's statement is supported by many quotations from Srimad Bhagvatam. In his commentary on this verse, for example, Sridhar Swami gives the following quotation: Sayam pratar grinam bhaktya dukkha gramad vimuchyate. If one always chants the holy name of the Lord with great devotion in the evening and in the morning, one can become free from all material miseries. Another quotation confirms that one can achieve liberation if one hears the holy name of the Lord constantly, every day, with great respect. Another quotation says, one should always chant and hear about the extraordinary, wonderful activities of the Lord. One should meditate upon these activities, and one should endeavor to please the Lord. Sridhar Swami also quotes from the Puranas, Papashayas Chabhavati Smaratam Tam Aharnisam. One can become free from all sinful reactions simply by remembering the lotus feet of the Lord day and night, Aharnisam, Furthermore, he quotes from the Bhagavatam. So here we see whatever seems impossible, right? That is, advancing from Kanistha Adhikari to Madhyama Adhikari to Uttama Adhikari, becomes possible and relatively easy if one takes up chanting sincerely this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's how powerful the Maha Mantra is. We don't realize the power of it. And if we do it aharnisam, day and night, then, so there's two ways of understanding that. One way is we never stop chanting, whether during the day or at night. Or the other understanding is, at least in the morning and the evening, we chant sincerely without anything taking our mind away, the holy names of Krishna. So, this quote from 6.3.31 says, all these quotations prove that one who constantly engages in chanting and hearing of the holy activities, name, fame, and form of the Lord is liberated. As stated wonderfully in this verse, Etavatalam aga nirharayanaya pumsa. Simply by uttering the name of the Lord, one is freed from all sinful reactions. So, what seems to be impossible, very difficult, hard to achieve, too arduous, actually becomes very easy if we take up this chanting seriously. And that's why Prabhupada wrote, for transcendental realization or self-realization, many processes are recommended by various classes of philosophers. Some of them are first-class methods, and some of them are second- or third-class methods. The first-class method demands that one give up all other methods and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Lord, and thus be saved from all sins and their reactions. So this surrendering and the extended action of surrendering is regularly following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness and chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, with full faith that what Prabhupada is saying, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what Srila Rupa Goswami has said, and Sanatana Goswami has said, and what Sridhar Swami has said about the holy name, it's true. It's not an exaggeration. It's actually true. If we chant in a Harnisam day and night, the holy name of Krishna, will become liberated in this lifetime and will not be affected by false philosophies and misinterpretations, and will not be attracted by phony people who pretend to be great pundits but actually are nundits. And in that way, we just stick to Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam with Prabhupada's purports, and we attain easily pure Krishna consciousness. So those are a few points. We'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
What is the second and third class means with the other types of jnanis and
Methods. He's talking about methods, right?
mm-hmm.
So methods for attaining higher states, like some people say it's meditation. Other people say it's by just doing good deeds, right? If you do good deeds, then the law of karma is obliged to give you positive results. That actually is not true. The law of karma is established by Krishna. So Krishna is the one that gives benedictions, not the law itself. But the karma mimamsa philosophers say, well, you don't have to go to the temple, you don't have to do any of that stuff. You just do good karma, and the law of karma says that you'll get good results. But Prabhupada explains that's not true. The results are given by Krishna if he's pleased with your service. It's not, you can do service blindly or mechanically, but that doesn't mean that Krishna is obliged to give us any positive results. So it all depends on whether we're sincerely serving the Lord with devotion and love. So, therefore, we should not believe these phony philosophies like the karma mimamsa philosophy, which is an atheistic philosophy. It doesn't say Krishna gives; it says the law gives, right? as if it's obliged to give you. But the law, there's a lawmaker, and the lawmaker is the one that's giving, and that's Krishna. Yes. Say it again. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, related to what you were giving, just told about the goodness. I mean, I was listening some lecture from Prabhupada, and he gave a very nice example about the goodness. Means, people say that it's a kind of a, for every action there is a reaction in law of karma. So, having said that, even if you do good karmas, right? So, by doing, say, let's say you said you give some person like $1,000 for because he's not struggling and something, and you won't expect even that, okay, he should not return. But you have to take a birth to get that, because he has, once you have given, he has to pay you back, either in this or the next birth or next to next birth. Mm-hmm. So for that, even you did the good karma, you have to come to accept those karma back, like he has to take the money. So again,
you're not liberated.
Yeah, so you are not liberated. Even if you do good karma, you have to come back to get that money because you have given.
That's why good and bad are both bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's only transcendental love and devotion for Krishna that is outside of the law of karma. And so there's karma, vikarma, and akarma. So just performing karma, you still stay in the material world. And as we've said before, you might be promoted from third-class sufferer to a first-class sufferer, right? So, but you're still in the material world, you're still subject to the laws of birth and death. It's only by pure, unalloyed devotional service that one is actually liberated. So some people don't understand this. They think, oh, if I go to Swarga, that's liberation. No, it's not. It means that you're going to always be still subject to birth, death, old age, and disease. Even on Brahma Loka, there's birth, death, old age, and disease. Right? Yeah.
Maharaj, there is a line which mentions like, typically the Kanishta Adhikari is eager to engage his materialistic qualifications in the service of the Lord, mistaking such material expertise to be the sign of advanced devotion.
Yes.
What does that mean, Maharaj?
Well, someone can be a very good businessman, right? So they think that because they can use that business expertise to make money, and some of that money they give, in charity to the temple or to this cause or that cause, they think that's real devotional service. Well, it is a type of devotional service, there's no doubt about it, but it's not pure, because the person is, they still think that they are the controller, that they don't completely surrender. So when it says Atma Nivedanam, that story of Bali Maharaj is very important. He had to give everything, including himself, not just everything he owned, but he had to give including himself. So that's why Atma Nivedanam is one of the 9 points of devotional service. But the businessman who makes a lot of money and gives some money to devotees, okay, that's a pious activity, but that's not enough. That's not Atma Nivedanam. So that's a step in the right direction, but it's not the complete step. So and then if someone gets proud that, oh, there's a story in the Bible like that also, that some very poor person came into a church and he gave a few cents, because he only had a few cents. That was the last few cents that he had. And then some very rich man came in and gave like $500, and he started praising himself. He said, "My Lord, just see how much I've given. It's $500." Well, there's a gulf of difference between $500 and a few cents, right? But actually, that poor guy gave more than the big guy, the big rich guy, because all he had was a few cents, whereas the rich guy got millions of dollars and he gave $500. You see? So yeah, actually, it's just like if you compare an elephant to an ant can pick up a huge amount of weight. But because everything is relative, the ant can pick up 3, 4, 5 times its weight. And the elephant can only pick up 2 times its weight. So if you look at it like that, the ant is stronger than the elephant, you see? So when the poor man just gave whatever he had, he gave. He didn't have anything else. And the rich man gave a little small percentage of what he had, and he started praising himself and asking for respect and so many things. So actually, he could have given much more. So that story about Bali Maharaj is very important. To actually get to the point of Atma Nivedanam, to give everything to Lord, including yourself, that means that one is a pure devotee. Okay, we'll stop there. Okay.
So in 1864, it says that this is the most confidential knowledge.
Yes.
The word confidential seems to denote that this is
Guhyatamam.
Sarva Guhyatamam.
Yeah.
So the word confidential, at least my understanding, is more like secret, right? So then if it is secret...
No,
kind of
it
thing,
means that it's a open secret. It's offered to everyone. Like it's right here in Bhagavad Gita, right?
Yeah,
So,
because
so we
yeah.
just distributed over 2 million Bhagavad Gitas, right? So it's an open secret.
So why is it a secret? Like secret seems to be closely held versus we are saying that we should distribute to everyone.
No, it's an open secret.
Open secret.
It's not a closed secret. It's an open secret. You can only understand it if you're free of sinful reactions. That's why it's confidential. Now, how many people are free of sinful reactions, you know? Very few. So therefore, it's confidential. It's only reserved for those people. But everyone has a chance. If they just give up sinful activities, then they can understand too. So when you join the temple, you have to follow the 4 regulative principles. If you follow the 4 regulative principles, you will stop committing sinful acts. And if you chant Hare Krishna, you'll purify the reactions to your sinful acts in previous life and in this life. Then you're able to understand this confidential knowledge.
So it all depends on how you understand it. Like for understanding, that is kind of why it's a bit difficult because we are not in that.
It all depends on if you're willing to be trained. Right? If you're willing to be trained, get regulated, follow the regulative principles, chant minimum 16 good rounds every day, then you're able to understand this confidential knowledge. If you don't, then you can read it, you can study it, you can pass tests on it, still you don't understand it because you're still engaged in sinful acts. That's why it says it's confidential. It's only those rare persons who are willing to follow the rules and regulations and chant will be able to understand this. They can read it. Other people can read it. They study Bhagavad Gita in University of Washington.
Academy.
My daughter took that course, you know, and they don't understand anything. Yeah. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. When it says confidential, it doesn't mean it's kept a secret.
Because that's how we use that term in our business
Yeah.
parlance. Like, oh, it's a confidential document.
Now, but obviously, Bhagavad Gita is being disseminated everywhere, right? It's not confidential. It's confidential in the sense that you can only understand it if you give up sinful activity and you chant and you become free of your previous sins, then you can begin to understand.
Well, Lord Krishna says clearly to Arjuna that I'm revealing this secret to you because you are my devotee as well as my friend. So then Prabhupada in introduction says that you have to adopt the attitude of Arjuna in order to understand Bhagavad Gita.
Bhaktosi me sakacheti rahasyam yatad uttamam. I'm explaining this to you because you are my friend, Sakha, and you're my bhakta, you're my devotee. Therefore you can understand this most supreme secret.
And Prabhupada is saying in introduction, you have to have those qualities.
Or can it be like considered like this, like until that point before Krishna revealed this, it might be a secret, but when Krishna revealed it, it becomes open.
Krishna revealed it
It's open
to
secret.
Vivaswan 140 million years ago.
Yeah, but before that also, right? That might be.
Before that it was still existing. He revealed it to Brahma in the beginning of time. It's not been kept, in a box, in a lockbox. It's been there, but it depends if you follow Krishna's instructions or not.
So it's a science, it works, but we don't understand. We are ready for it. Yeah. It won't reveal.
Yeah. So anyone, when Prabhupada was writing his acceptance letter to devotees who asked for an initiation in the beginning, he always started, the one I got started like that too. He said, "You are a very fortunate young man." Yeah, because very few people are actually going to try and become Krishna conscious in this world. So already he said, "You're very fortunate." And he said that to almost all the people he wrote the letters to accepting them as initiated devotees. So you're all very fortunate.